Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Coffee on the Coast. My name is Jason Prigge, co-founder of the Coolest Coast. And one of the things we like to emphasize here on the Coolest Coast is our wonderful community and all of the great things that encompass it. And one of the things that I think is really important in our community is mental health. So I'm going to bring on some ladies here that have a really special message for everybody in Manitowoc County, and have a really special idea and program that they would like to talk about. So if we could just go around the horn here and introduce yourselves and what we're doing here today, that would be great. Nobody be shy. How about Linda first?
Okay, Linda Gratz. I've been a member of the league here in Manitowoc for 43 years now.
Wow.
And we've gotten involved in a lot of different studies, and this is one of my favorites because I think it has a lot of potential for helping the community.
Okay. My name's Mary Wallace, and I cannot beat Linda's time in the league. I've probably been in maybe 15 years and worked on all of the studies that preceded the one that we're working on now.
And I'm Maureen Crowley, and I joined just for the Mental Health Committee and have been on it since at least, I don't remember if it's how long it started before I was on it, but at any rate, then I joined the league. And so I've been involved in the studies that this committee has done.
Wonderful. And just for the people that are watching, when they mention league, we're talking about the League of Women Voters, correct?
Right.
All right. Can you give us a little background on that? What does that mean, the League of Women Voters? What is your main concerns there?
I think the 43 years person should answer that question.
Oh, thank you, Maureen.
You're welcome.
Well, the League of Women Voters started out as a movement to get women the right to vote. And I think that that's our major emphasis for the League of Women Voters is the right to vote, how to get people informed, and how to get people out so that they are voting.
Sure. So let's talk about why we are here. I mentioned, mental health in the beginning of the show and how important that is. And you ladies are also concerned about mental health in our county. So can someone tee up what we're talking about here today?
Sure. I guess we could start back with about 2008, the League of Women Voters did a study on drug courts. And at the time, there were a lot of barriers to overcome to make that happen. And it didn't happen overnight. I think it took about 3 different grant writings, and we had to establish the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council. And there was a lot of work that was involved in it, but we kind of initiated the process, and it became a reality in 2017. And it is an awesome support for our community. And that got us thinking about other people who could benefit from a similar diversion court. And that kind of resulted in us working on our current study, which is a look at the case for having a mental health court in Manitowoc County.
So what is a mental health court? Can we define that for our people that are watching?
You want me to take that or?
Sure.
Okay. So a mental health court is a diversion court. It diverts people from the criminal justice system into a treatment system. And we'll go over the components of it later. But it's not the traditional courtroom. It's to provide treatment, to provide support, to provide community, to provide resources that grow out of it. To help people rather than being diverted into jail and systems that don't work for them and that have the police over and over and over again having to intervene, to putting them on the path to health and self-sufficiency and life.
Right. So, Maureen, do you know what is the impact of these courts? I know that they exist in Brown County, Outagamie, Eau Claire County. What's the impact in those other counties? Have you ladies found that some significant change in the community?
Well, what we did mostly was look at the courts themselves and some of the participants. We did some academic research too to see what is a mental health court, how does it work, is it successful? And one of the big successes has been a drop in recidivism. So people are much less likely to have another charge or to find themselves in trouble with law enforcement again. So there are a number of mental health courts in Wisconsin. We visited two of them, Brown County and Outagamie County, and we had a Zoom meeting with someone representing the mental health court in Eau Claire. And we were very impressed. The Judge Zudmulder, I always struggle with pronouncing his name, in Brown County is extremely extremely enthusiastic about the court. And he's the judge for a number of their treatment courts. And one of the things we know about mental health courts is that the judge is very important to the whole process. And there is a professional standard for how mental health courts should work. And this judge thinks one of the things you have to do is to meet frequently with the participants. He meets even more frequently. And he said some of the participants have never heard anyone say, "I'm proud of you." And he does that. And they get a coin at the very beginning that says, "Never alone again." And it means a lot. And so we visited, I was one of the people that visited Brown County, and it was very impressive. They fit with the academic research we found with a lower level of recidivism. One of the things for Brown County was that they followed 100 people for a year, and they saw that they had 4,200 contacts with law enforcement. And after they were in the program, that dropped to 300 to 400. Wow. So it was a dramatic drop. And we see that pretty much in all the research as well. So those courts, even if the people don't finish the program for a variety of reasons, it still seems to have a benefit for them. And we interviewed two participants. We call them Jeannie and Julie. And they talked about how important it was to have the structure, accountability, the judge. One of the women said the judge never gave up on her. And if you see her situation, that's amazing because she really struggled. And I think she was up on 3 felonies. She had trouble with drug abuse. She had trauma in her life. And when she really was skeptical of the program at the beginning, and she finished the program, is doing extremely well, is mentoring another person, has been okay, drug-free for 18 months, and just has wonderful things to say and is very grateful. So we really see a big impact on the community. And when asked, is the mental health court more beneficial to you, do you think, than the drug court? She very strongly said yes, that the drug court would have focused in on her drug problems, drug abuse problems, but the mental health court is dealing with the mental health issues that she thinks was at the root of all the other things that were going on. So she felt very strongly. And she said she had a lot of different treatment modalities. And she said all of those, she thinks, rewired her brain. So she had individual therapy, group therapy, medication, and a number of others. And she said now she makes good choices automatically. So wow. we really saw benefits from all the courts that we investigated.
Sure. And, we've seen it here in Manitowoc with Judge Rohr and Judge Duane doing a fabulous job at drug court. I actually have friends that have graduated from there and gone on to wonderful lives and wonderful careers because of that drug court. And instead of just throwing people in a cell, you're treating the person. And that is such an important part of what a community should be doing for its citizens. And I want to pull up one of the graphics here. Linda, I was wondering if you could maybe talk about the components of the mental health court itself.
Okay. I'm trying to see here.
So one of the things, the first thing that's up on the graphic is judicial supervision with regular status hearings.
Yes.
And what does that look like?
Okay, that's so important. And that's sort of what Maureen was touching on too, that they come to court often every week, and they report on what they've been doing and how things are going. And Maureen talked about the judge in Brown County, and the program that we saw in Outagamie County was just outstanding too. And the participants in the drug court, the other participants, were such a part of the person's treatment and success because they were so supportive of one another. And if someone needed a ride somewhere, they would volunteer to find them a ride. If they needed something else, they'd volunteer. And it was just nice to see the sense of community that built up there. And when you were talking about the community earlier, Jason, I mean, that's something that not only does the participant benefit from the community, but the community in the long term is going to benefit from the participation of the person in the mental health court.
Sure. And this is, just so everybody knows, this is a voluntary participation. So just if you enter the system, meaning the court system, it's not like you're mandatory. This has to be, you have to want help for this. And I think that's really important as well. And there's a team approach, like you were just saying, individual-based, community-based treatment, a system of incentives and sanctions. Each court will be set up, will set up a program that meets professional standards. And that last one kind of intrigued me. What does that mean, professional standards in mental health?
No, not so much for mental health. I think it's for the mental health court. They lay out like how many times they should be seen by the judge and meet, that there is a coordinator, et cetera, et cetera. And so there's kind of a minimum standard, and then each court can decide. Some courts will say you can't have a felony, that it can only be a misdemeanor. Other courts accept felonies. Some courts say it can't be a violent crime, and other courts say that's okay. Some courts talk about which kinds of mental disorders are okay. When I say okay, that they'll accept into the program. Others might not. Yeah.
Wonderful. So I just want to bring up this other graphic as well. And this is a really nice synopsis of the goals of the mental health court. And Mary, why is this important?
Well, I think it's important to realize that it helps the individual, but it also helps the community, as we've kind of said. But as Jason Latva, the previous coordinator of the drug court, it's the most important thing is the participant and improving their life and their opportunities for their future. And subsequent to that, the cost to the community, jail, police contacts, public safety of people that maybe would be a danger to themselves or other who are not coming into contact with law enforcement anyway again. So just the savings to the county in terms of costs for corrections, police, et cetera, is huge. But the important thing is the change to the participant and the life that they have. And we've all been to the drug court graduations, and you see what these people have accomplished and the ties that they've brought back to their children and their family. They're working. It's just amazing. And that's the biggest benefit.
Sure. Go ahead, Maureen.
Can I go back to one of the components was incentives and sanctions, and it seems little, but when they have done well or accomplished something, and the court is no longer set up like a punishment, like we need to figure out how long you're going to serve time. It's more about how can we help you succeed in this program, and so they get maybe they reach into a fishbowl and they get a free sandwich at some place or a free drink somewhere. They get a star on a board, perhaps. That's various kinds of things. But the emotional pat on the back from the judge is extremely important. And when he talks, and I say he because that's the one I visited, when he says something wonderful that they had accomplished, the entire all the people in the court, family members, community members, they applaud, and that person gets applauded for what they have just done. And I think that's extremely important. And we know from psychology that incentives are a lot more effective than punishments. And so there are sanctions, but they try to limit those if they can and give mostly positive reinforcement.
Sure, sure. I want to talk for a second because I've been involved with the recovery community here in Manitowoc for years. One of the things that I know the leaders in the recovery community struggle with is stigma. And the stigma of mental health is just as big as the stigma, if not bigger, the stigma for addiction. So if I have a problem, if I'm depressed, or if I have some kind of problem that's even more severe mental health wise, I'm not very likely to talk about it. And one of the things I see this court doing potentially is to help break those walls of stigma down. And people are ashamed, right? You know, I don't want to talk about my mental health, or I don't want to be involved with that. That's such a loaded issue, when it's really a holistic approach. You know, people talk about in medicine all the time, a holistic and a preventative approach. This seems to me like that's what this is. Am I correct in assuming that, Linda?
Yes, absolutely. I mean, I think it's so important for that to take place. And when we did our original mental health study a number of years ago, that was one of the things that we wanted to focus on and to have the community focus on. And there were committees set up countywide through the Healthiest Manitowoc County. And one of the committees was looking at stigma. You know, how can we get beyond the embarrassment of people that have a mental health disorder and get to being supportive as a community and providing them with the resources they need. And one of the things that we've seen through the drug court is that we had very limited resources to begin with. And as the drug court got going, the resources sort of grew to meet the needs of the participants. And that's something that we're hoping would happen too if we branch out and get a mental health court in the community. And I think with the mental health court, if it was part of the judicial system, if it was part of the process, I think the stigma for the mental health concerns would also be addressed through that.
Sure, sure. Yeah, it sounds like a great idea. So, you know, people are going to ask, because we're all concerned about this, but who funds this initiative? How is it funded, right?
Well, that's one of the big barriers that we have to overcome. At our meeting, and we should mention that we have a public forum on March 24th at 7 o'clock at City Hall, where we're going to present our findings from our report. And we're also going to try to get a discussion going with what the next steps are to move in that direction. And one of the parts of our presentation, Paul Tittle will be there. And as you know, he's the chair of the Mental Health Committee in the Assembly. And he's really done a lot of work on mental health. And we're hoping that he will provide us with some information with any funding that he sees coming through the state or the feds, which at this time, I think there is a little more along that line than there used to be. So we're hoping to gather some information from him. And it's not going to, obviously the league cannot make a mental health court happen. We're kind of the nudges. We'll provide the troops on the ground to do whatever needs to be done. But, you know, it needs to be in the hands of the professionals. And we do have the Criminal Justice Coordinating Council, which was established for the drug court, which has all the professional players involved. And that's, you know, one of the places we'll need to go to work with them and what they need to move forward with this idea
Sure, sure. And so everybody out there, put the March 24th at 7 p.m. On your calendar, and come to City Hall and really get involved with this. So something like this doesn't happen without community support. So somebody like me, how does somebody get involved with this? What would you like to see as far as community support in the future for this initiative?
Well, I think first of all, we'd like you to come to the meeting because we want to hear from you as to how you think you can help. And also, the county board is going to be very important in this process. Bob Ziegelbauer, as county executive, is going to be, it's going to be imperative to have his support.
Sure.
Law enforcement has already shown an overwhelming support for the idea of a mental health court. The police chief Reimer in Manitowoc and Chief Kohlmeyer from Two Rivers have just been very, very supportive and have helped us come up with data about what law enforcement costs are when they have to deal with someone with a mental health issue. And it can take up to 12 hours of an officer's time after getting like a suicide call and taking the person to the emergency room and getting medical clearance and then transporting them to someplace like Winnebago. So it's very costly for law enforcement. It's also very dangerous for law enforcement and for the community if someone has a crisis situation and it's not handled properly. So all of this is going to be really, really important for us to hear from people about how they can help.
And we're already kind of reaching out and partnering with NAMI, the National Alliance for Mental Illness.
Mental health intervention.
I hope I heard that correct. And also the suicide prevention folks in Manitowoc County. And I know there are many other groups that would be interested and would want to help if we could get the word out there and get coordination going. And I think your show and other publicity is hugely important so that people are aware of it and if they're interested can participate.
Sure.
One of the other letters of support we have is also from the coroner, Curtis Reed,
Oh,
who has, of course, seen some,
firsthand.
yes, why it might be important to have a treatment court or diversion court, whatever. I think we decided to call it a treatment court.
Right.
Yeah.
But it does divert people away from being incarcerated.
Sure, sure. Well, we can talk for hours about how wonderful Manitowoc County is and all the great things in Manitowoc County. But I truly believe in my heart of hearts that what makes Manitowoc County great and the coolest coast is the people who care about other people. A community is defined by how well we take care of underprivileged people, how we take care of our sick, how we take care of our community and each other. So I love this initiative, and I think it's really important for people to get involved. So if you are interested in talking with these lovely ladies about this mental health court and just the general idea of it and how you can support it, please come to City Hall on March 24th at 7 p.m. and engage and be involved with your community. It's your community. And we can sit back and complain, but it really, really takes a positive attitude and a can-do attitude to get things done for Manitowoc County. And I think that this is a super idea, and I really applaud the League of Women Voters for getting involved with this, and everybody is going to benefit, it sounds like, from this. And even the average citizen will be able to appreciate the decrease, at least in the financial burden of the police department and these other services that are being stretched. So thank you so much for joining me today, ladies. I think this is a wonderful initiative, and thank you for your work on it and your caring about it and the stick-to-itiveness. So please, everybody out there, come to City Hall on March 24th and engage with this conversation. It can only do great things for Manitowoc. Thank you so much, ladies, for joining me today.
Jason.
Thank you.
Thanks for having us.